One.
I don't know how this is going to go. Right. You all ready? Ready?
Yes.
Ready when you are, shaky.
Right. Okay, then. So, starting in... I don't know why I'm doing that, because this is all going out unedited. 3, 2,
1.
Oh, fuck's sake. Hi there, and welcome to episode 150 of the ADHD Adults podcast.
Wow.
I'm James Bryan, the man who misunderstood when Mrs ADHD asked him to stop doing it weekly. And as usual, I'm joined by the man who does it twice a month. That's murdering people, obviously, Dr. Alex Connor. And the woman who puts the stress in reducing the number of Friday episodes due to crippling stress, Mrs ADHD. Now, we're not sure how long this fortnightly / weekly / when we can be asked Friday format will continue. But for now, we're unbelievably at 150 episodes without killing each other, without giving up, without forgetting that the podcast exists, or without getting cancelled. Although arguably all of those have come close at some points in the last couple of years. So for the 150th time, Alex, hi.
We're going to get cancelled, aren't we? If we send this out uncut.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because some of the things that
we say in the breaks
said.
You can't get cancelled when we're as insignificant as us. Who's going to cancel us?
Well,
that's a fair point, yeah.
Well, people could just stop listening, which is the same thing. Then again, we don't really know what I don't know. Anyway, and Sam, hi.
Hi.
Looks comfy where you're sat.
You're really comfortable, yes.
Are you kneeling again?
Yeah, sorry.
You fucking... Just to give people insight into this, we really should have clicked record a little bit earlier, because Sam moved her office around recently, and I'll let her tell you that, because it's probably going to be what ADHD thing have you done. And she basically now is kneeling on a chair for the entirety of this recording, which is not going to work, really, is it?
It'll be fine. Everything's completely fine.
Everything's completely fine.
Yeah.
A reminder then that we started the podcast only CL James episodes ago, because James wanted to know what it was like to talk to humans, but without the maddening bloodlust. That's why we started. And now we do a second one every Friday, but only twice a month sometimes or something, because nothing suits the neurodivergent community like a confusing lack of routine. That's what we wanted to support. Sam's here as well, because she thought the new noise the computer makes is the ice cream van. Just ran in.
Ice cream. I hate ice cream.
Well, who hates ice? Come on.
I know, yeah, but she doesn't like teal coffee.
It's too cold.
And tea and coffee
bothered
are
about
too
ice
hot.
cream. Thinking about
You're not bothered about it. You're not bothered about it.
Yeah, I'd rather have some beef jerky, James.
Anyway, this first saddle of a podcast is also a tragedy in 3 parts. We'll discuss how no one's going to ask. No one's going to ask.
I'm asking what?
Okay. First saddle is when you have an unbroken line of hair from your tailbone to your navel. Apparently, according to Urban Dictionary, it's some people like it.
Tailbone by your bum.
It's above your bum.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's the bit you hurt when you fall on your ass.
We've probably gone into this in too much detail.
So would it cover your legs as well then? How does that work? So it goes from
like one of them half goat mythical creatures, James. Is that what you mean?
Oh,
just
pan.
Fuck's sake.
We normally do easy jokes, James, not satire, because that was the name of a mythical goat.
God. Anyway, what I just said and what we discussed for 2 minutes of a podcast is also a tragedy in 3 parts. We'll discuss how the, I don't know, months, is it, between Friday podcasts has been from our perspective as people who very, very clearly at this moment have ADHD, and as people who are involved in multiple different and very tiring ways in the ADHD community, as well as answering some of your questions from the community. So remember, send us questions to ask through the form that's on the website, www.theadhdadults.uk. It says we'll also talk about this podcast theme, which I think was workplace discrimination, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Well, and I haven't had any letters yet from solicitors, so I think I've got away with something there. Why we chose it and how we feel about it. So, as always, I'll ask you what your last couple of weeks / months / let's be honest, the Christmas break were, and nobody will ask me except Sam. So, Sam, how were your last week / month / really the Christmas break?
I can't really remember a lot. I remember burning my fanny 3 times. 3 times.
For luck?
No, I had diarrhea and I was wiping myself, but I got distracted while I was wiping and wiped from back to front, which you should never do.
Never do. There's a rhyme.
So then I was washing myself, but the water was scalding. So I scalded my fanny and thought I'll add more cold water. But because I'm so time blind, I thought that's been ages. That'll be fine. Scalded myself again, added more cold water and thought that's been ages. That'll be fine. Scalded myself again. Really? Yeah. And then yesterday I put a tampon in when I wasn't bleeding and nearly ripped my fanny out.
Ooh.
For the 9% of our listeners that are in America, we don't call our bums or bottoms fannies. She's talking about her intimate lady part, her front bum. Yeah, which she calls her mini, which
yeah. And also I moved my office round, not thinking about this podcast at all. So when we did the podcast last time, the background was right up against the window. I could only fit one light. It was a nightmare. So I thought, this will be better. I'll move it round. I've got to kneel on a chair and it's not better. It's worse. Anyway, James, how are you?
No.
Oh, you should answer.
You're not supposed to ask. Do you remember?
It's a bit. It's
100.
I mean, I don't. How many Friday episodes now? And we still have to explain that.
But we say how we are. Why don't you?
Yes,
because it's a bit.
It's a joke, Sam. It's a joke because we know that you'll say it's written because we know that you'll say yes and then we'll say no when you say it. I forgot about forgot about the script. No shit, Sherlock.
Do you think people can see where we would normally edit? Do you think it's obvious?
I think they'll soon find out if they haven't already.
Probably the burnt fanny bit, the goat joke, those sorts of things.
All the bits. To be fair, it's hard to edit an entire podcast out. Well, as I've been asked, Sam, Christmas was predictably shit. Although, fascinatingly, I didn't predict that it would be shit. And this is for me. Yeah, this is for me almost kind of the wonderful gift that ADHD gives me is that I always forget how much I fucking hate Christmas and always feel let down by that break. I always, to be fair, I'd normally try a bit harder. Like we didn't really put trees. Well, we did put trees up, but I mean they were shit, weren't they?
I bought 2 pop-up trees last minute and stuck them in front of a door.
Right next to each other, so they were touching. It was
time for Christmas this year.
Exactly. But what I was looking forward to was rest because I thought I was approaching burnout and I was knackered. And then again, stupidly, I thought, well, there's loads of stuff I want to do. I actually need to get this thing sorted in the garden, need to get the boiler fixed, need to get all these things done. And the second I sat down after finishing work, I basically didn't move from the sofa for about 6 days.
I mean, that's good.
And I was not going to mention that. It's that. Oh God, I was coaching somebody yesterday, and I mentioned the game, which I'm going to talk about in the ADHD question bit, and they specifically said, "Do not tell me the name of it."
Well, that's not the name, so it's fine.
Okay,
I don't
brilliant.
know what the name actually is.
So 48 years, still haven't learned that Christmas is always shit for me. Terrible, awful, hated it. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, it was excellent, thank you. I usually say holiday period, not Christmas, because it infuriates racists. That makes me so happy. I pretend it's offensive to say Christmas. Obviously, it isn't. And I look disappointed in them when they say it. Well, because Muslims are allergic to the word Christmas. I mean, if you've come from Birmingham, you've got loads of friends who aren't white and aren't from the Christian religion or no religion, and honestly don't give a shit
My sister-in-law and brother are both Muslim, and they are the ones in our family that insist that we celebrate Christmas every year. And this year, my brother's saying to my dad, "You just want every day to be the same and never celebrate anything, don't you?" And Dad's going, "Yeah." And I was like, "So do I. I want every day to be the same."
Oh, well, yeah. I was going to make a joke, but because this is
Oh,
live, I
sorry.
definitely can't make the joke I was
Oh,
going to
okay.
make.
Oh, okay.
I do that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, mine was brilliant. It was the first ever sober Christmas I've ever had as an adult, and to be honest, pretty much child. And yeah, I went sober at the end of 2022, and now I'm a smug twat.
You always
But
have
now,
been.
yes, I'm about to say
thank
now.
you.
I mean,
You
to be
are.
fair, I
More.
met you in 2007, and I reckon within 7 minutes I'd worked out you were a smug twat.
Yeah, it was obvious from the start. Yeah, it's fair. I meant about this specific thing as well. Yeah, so that was interesting and wonderful, and I've been asked by a few people to help them with their sobriety, which I'm not, qualified to do, but I'm happy to talk to them about it, which is all I can do. I'm fucking useless at actual advice, but I can share my experiences. That's all there is, really, isn't it? And the first couple of months were tough to be alcohol free, but I've got to a point where I just don't think about it. I'm almost disgusted by it now, a bit like smokers when they stop smoking, say, and I never thought it was possible. I didn't think it was possible to be happy without alcohol. What a fucking depressing thing to say.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
but after a really positive thing as well, you said it was a real flex actually. After we both said how shit our Christmases were, for you to say you've had the best one ever.
Yeah, and the reason fucking self-care that you two both think is selfish when you do it, obviously, that's why, because I am the only one of us that has the ability to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You're
fair.
rubbish.
That's fair. Yeah, fair enough, mate.
I was walking along thinking about both of your self-esteem walking the dog this morning, because I was shouting at a famous comedian on the Twitter threads or whatever it is, and I was thinking, oh yeah, that's just like them two. They can't. The lack of self-esteem is a killer for your emotional state.
I had a coaching session yesterday with it's really, I really want to know, when I have a coaching session with somebody and they say something profound, I really want to name them. And is a first name, is that identifiable?
No, yeah, it's an identifier. I just
think it's fine.
Just ask them explicitly.
Yeah,
that would be that's why.
I had a chat. This is probably the person I've been coaching for longest, and we've got a really good relationship. And they ended the session by making me listen to them give me lots of praise. And they said, and I quote, "I can see you squirming in your seat, and I fucking love
Sam doing it." Say it again, James. Sorry, I stupidly ADHD interrupted. Can you say it again?
They said, "I can see you squirming in your seat, and I fucking love it." They were taking delight in the fact, as they were saying,
you've ever heard that.
You've had this motivation to a podcast and a charity, and you help all these people. And I was obviously just looking down. Looking down. It's bad to looking down at my feet, but it's my crotch really, because I'm in a chair. I can't see my feet. Yeah. So,
apart from burning your fanny, what stupid thing have you been doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing? Unless that was what you were supposed to be doing. Sam, start with you.
Oh God, I can't remember. Well, this morning, very late for the podcast because I was just fucking around doing shit. I decided this morning, just before the podcast, I'll dye my eyelashes. But all I did was smear dye all around my eyes, and then I had to wash it off immediately because it went all inside my eyes and made them all red. And then I don't have trousers on because I was just so late.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, we know. You showed us. Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. And and I was having a conversation with Stuart Lee in my head all night because I've started reading. You know, you said I shouldn't look at books before I go to bed. Well, I've managed.
You shouldn't look at your phone.
Oh yeah, sorry, my phone. Well, I've managed to start reading because I haven't been able to read since I started the perimenopause. But I've started reading, but then it gets my brain overexcited, and I'm talking to that person in my head all night long then instead of sleeping. So that's probably it. What about you?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
The-
And when
the-
you said, "What about you?" Is that because it's on the script? Who are you talking to? There's two of us.
Oh,
I was about
Alex.
I was about to say the whole purpose of having the script for these bits is for you to document what stupid thing you've been doing, and the fact that you never have ever engaged in this part of the script and have to suddenly on the spot think of. There are so many things that happen over Christmas that were ADHD.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but again, the beauty of it is you can't remember them because it's
As
gone.
James was just about to say, in the script and after your name, there's just an ellipsis, Sam.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even know what script we were
Fuck
doing
off,
today,
Alex.
so I couldn't have prepared.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's
Not that you ever prepare anyway.
No.
Which one of us, Sam? Which one of
Alex,
us?
I said.
Okay.
I've been looking into orbits. I've been arguing with famous comedians on the internet.
Stop.
Yeah.
Orbits.
Yeah. I was looking at how the Earth wobbles around the sun and means that, the shortest days in like 22nd of December or thereabouts.
Yeah, 21st of December. It's my dad's birthday.
And did you know that isn't
solstice.
so the lights, the evenings start to get lighter on the 6th or 7th of December.
Oh, yeah.
But the mornings are really dark, and then the shortest day might be then, but it's the mornings start to get lighter on the 7th of January, depending on what latitude you're at. So it was like a few days ago that actually we can start to enjoy brighter mornings as we head, because it's right now is the depths of midwinter. It's -9 degrees here, and I was looking at how orbits affect that, and it's more about the wobble of the Earth than the orbital shape, James. We should do that. This is what this podcast should be about.
No.
Could be goat puns.
Honestly,
orbits.
if it gets you off this podcast, I will help you set one up, which is called Woodpeckers and Physics. And every week you can talk about the latest theorem you've got on physics.
Hypothesis, you mean?
Yes, etc.
Is it Woodpeckers and Physics is an amazing title
of your sex tape.
That's brilliant. What about you, James? What stupid thing have you been doing that you shouldn't have been doing?
I mean, obviously lots. There's two things. We mentioned the game that shouldn't be named, and luckily Sam used the wrong name. So quite early on in the Christmas break, when we realized that we were physically unable to engage in any activity that was meaningful, and yet obviously our brains were screaming engage in activities. One of us, I can't remember who actually found this game. It was Sam, I think, found this game. And it's one of those really pointless games where you have to basically do some farming and produce stuff. And I swear to God,
game.
Yes. And I swear to God, this is a very inappropriate thing to say, but it is more addictive. It was immediately. I mean, I've taken some pretty heavy substances in my life.
Today?
It was today, yeah. It was immediately. We couldn't put it down. We played one day for 22 out of 24 hours. This game.
Oh no!
Like, did you have a 2-hour break, or did you have a series of 15-minute breaks?
2 hours
I was playing through the night.
Yeah, but there was a 2-hour.
In separate rooms, and James got up, and I went, "Are you addicted as well?" And he went, "Yeah." And we literally just sat there all day long playing it on our phones.
And that probably 60% of that gap between Christmas and New Year. And actually, we rationalise this by saying we're very unhappy, we're struggling, and we're tired. At least we're resting. While we both sit on a sofa, occasionally saying, "How many tomatoes you got?"
Have you thought about writing inspirational posters at all? We're very unhappy, but at least we're addicted to a meaningless game.
Alex, I was once told when I was an academic by somebody at a research away day that I should be an inspirational speaker.
Really? Like a salutary tale kind of thing?
Somebody was genuinely in awe. No. They were very young and naive and probably thick, but they said, I don't know, we had this conversation. They said, you should be a motivational speaker. You've just inspired me. I mean, Christ knows they must have been high. The other thing,
you were masking madly.
You know me as an academic. I deliberately was hostile and horrible to keep people away from me, unless you were in the 3 out of like 1,000 academics. that I liked.
It was me and Snail, wasn't it? We're the only ones that were.
you, Snay, and Eric were the only ones actually,
yeah.
and no Lindsay as well. But anyway,
Yeah, there are a few.
The other thing, which I think is important to me, is you guys know about this. Is I had to go to the GP. Now I've missed my blood pressure and pulse test 4 times to maintain my ADHD meds. So I'm very lucky the GP hasn't gone get fucked. We're not prescribing this. And various reasons, you know, I got the date wrong once. I went to the wrong doctors once because you can book it at different clinics. I had a migraine, and I think I had a diarrhea and vomiting bug. So when I went there, this is the 5th time, and I'd phoned up and booked. You phone up and you book at my local GP, and they say, okay, you booked in with the nurse. That's all they say. Now you get to the GP practice. For every other service, there's a computer screen where you log in by doing year of birth, month of birth, first letter of surname. Then it says you're logged in to see so-and-so. None of these screens worked for this appointment. So I thought, well, obviously they'll just call my name. So I sat down. And I'd got there at 11:45. Appointment was at 12. I was coaching somebody at 1. By 12:30, I started to realize something's not right here. I've done something wrong, or this is really late. And I texted Sam, and Sam said, oh, no, you have to check in with the receptionist. And I had a complete meltdown because I started looking around thinking, well, where's the sign that says check in with the receptionist? Where was the advice that says check in with the receptionist? So I joined this massive queue to check in with the receptionist, thinking I'm not going to get home in time for this coaching session. I fuck this. I'm useless. I'm thick. Eventually got to the receptionist and said, hi, I booked an appointment to have my blood pressure and pulse tested with the nurse. Do I have to tell you I'm here? And she said, yeah, you have to check in with reception. And I said, well, I'm half an hour late. And she said, well, I mean, I can see if the nurse is still available. And I said, listen, I'm sorry. I have an invisible disability, I've said, and there are no signs in here that tell me I have to check in. When I booked it on the phone, you didn't tell me I have to check in. How am I supposed to know?
In my head, there's a massive great sign as well in neon.
Oh, I looked.
That you might not have seen.
I fucking looked, mate, believe me, because I was like in full on meltdown. And she looked up and she smiled and she just went, oh, is it your first time here? And I felt like a stupid child. I genuinely, I felt like a stupid little kid that was fucking thick and useless. And I just said, no, I've been registered here for 8 years. And she went, oh, anyway, take a seat and I'll see if the nurse is available. And I sat there, obviously, then full of self-loathing, messaging Sam saying, listen, I think you're going to have to cancel this next session. I've got to give them some notice. And I was in like full on, almost crying. This is very rare for me. I normally get super angry, not super meltdown. Got in to see the nurse who started the consultation by saying, slept in, did you? And
wow.
and again, I explained, no, actually, and this time I said I've got ADHD, and there was some confusion about booking in, and she just went, well, you'll have to wait because I'm doing some other stuff. And I sat there again feeling like a stupid child, as she basically did a bit of paperwork, and she could have taken my blood pressure, and it left me for the rest of the day unable to do anything. Are your knees hurting because you've been kneeling down, Samantha, the thing you promised you wouldn't be doing?
No.
Okay. Samantha, you're not obliged to answer direct questions.
Oh, what?
I know. You don't have to.
What?
Anyway,
I know.
Anyway, that's me done. I've stopped moaning.
Thanks for that, both. We're taking a break. In part 2, we'll be back with questions and thoughts from the ADHD adults community. Thank you to everybody that submitted messages, questions and suggestions for future topics through our website, theadhdadults.uk.
Flawless. And we're not taking a break. We're recording through this break, are we?
Yeah.
Well, we are taking a break, but we're still recording.
Yeah, I know. I know. It doesn't
James,
make sense, does it?
I went to get my prescription yesterday.
I'm just going to get a drink.
Okay.
All right. She said it's more than 2 weeks old.
Sam, on the video version of this, Sam, everybody has just seen your arse. So I don't know how I'm going to edit that out.
You can do those.
I'll blur it.
Yeah.
I'll blur it. Oh my God.
My eyes are already blurred.
Oh yeah, you've seen
sprinklers have gone off in here.
He's just done it. Just done it again, Sam. We'll wait till the headphones are on. Sam,
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't got trousers on, have I?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, everyone's just seen your ass.
Sorry about that.
James,
Um,
before we start, I went to get my prescription yesterday for my ADHD
Yeah.
meds, and they said, "Oh, your prescription's out of date. I don't know, 10 days old or something."
Mm.
But there's nowhere it says on it. This is you have to get this within. Well, there might be. I don't know. I haven't looked properly, but I don't think there is. And that's the same thing as why wouldn't somebody
Yeah.
tell you this?
Yeah, in Deutschland is this.
Ugh.
Well, of course it is because that's where you are. Because over here, I think it's 28 days. If you don't fulfill or get it dispensed within 28 days, it has
No,
to
I
be
think
returned.
it's much less than that.
That's why.
Right, I'm bringing us back
That's
in.
Okay.
Okay.
Go.
5, 4, 3.
At least you're counting down.
exactly.
Welcome back to episode 150. CL, James. CL. Of the ADHD adults, we're doing a what are we calling this one? The uncut, so you can see behind the scenes.
Yeah.
First ever Friday since we've moved to every 3, 1, or maybe 2 weeks. Who knows? As always, in part 2, we're taking questions from the community who've probably sent us a question on the forums. Big up at www.theadhdadults.uk. Ready for question, peeps? First one.
Yeah.
It says, "Hi, Wavy. Hope you're all well. I was diagnosed with ADHD in April after being fobbed off by GP previously because I had a rabbit ears, James. Good job, and more rabbit ears, James. Hadn't been in prison. And I assume also because I'm a woman, I left that appointment feeling dismissed, ashamed, and stupid, and due to massive RSD and an unhealthy dose of procrastination, it took me a good decade, which is the equivalent of 2 Dracula minutes for James and Alex's average pause in conversation, as perceived by Mrs ADHD." That's amazing. That was me. That was it. To get around to requesting another assessment. Anyway, I'm here now, and I have a question. I have astigmatism. I read recently that there's some research to indicate this occurs at a much higher prevalence in people with ADHD. Is this right? Also, if this is the case, do you think children or adults found to have astigmatism could or would ever be routinely screened for ADHD? If this is a decent indicator, surely it would take some of the pressure off self-reporting for symptoms, which is tough, as you've said, due to dodgy metacognition. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. Loving the podcast. Thank you all so much for the laughs, the open, honest, and oh so relatable insights, and for helping me feel less alone. That's from Should Have Done, which is a brilliant name.
It is.
And a really lovely letter. Thank you.
It is, yeah.
I love that. And that's so annoying. They were fobbed off. So many people message us saying that I've been told I've got a job and I've got a degree, so I can't have ADHD.
And what percentage of those are women, Sam?
I don't know. I haven't counted.
It's, I mean, anecdotally, it's huge. We have this thing, don't we, in medicine, where the patriarchal medicine, where women are more likely to be fobbed off because they're women and told it's something else.
Anyway, I have an astigmatism. Do you too?
Weirdly, because I'm still trying to keep my finger in research. One of my fellow researchers called Rebecca, who's at the University of Huddersfield, who used to be at Aston with me, is an optometry researcher, and we've been doing work in the past on obesity and eye problems and diabetes and eye problems. And I sent her this paper last week. So this is a meta-analysis which was published weirdly in Molecular Psychiatry, and what they showed was that in all of these studies collectively of adults with ADHD, there was increased astigmatism, there was increased hypermetropia and hyperopia, so short-sightedness, long-sightedness, increased strabismus, which is a squint, reduced near point of convergence, which is struggling to maintain focus on something that's close to you, and increased lag and variability of the accommodative response. So when you're trying to focus on something that's far away or near, after looking at something that's the opposite, it takes longer and there's more variable response, as well as increased self-reported vision problems and beautifully named unspecified vision problems. So actually, it looks like in general, there are more issues with vision in pretty much all of the major issues that you would see as an optometrist with ADHD.
That's fascinating. And interestingly, it was when I was with Rebecca that I swallowed a fly. I was taking part in one of her study and I had a thing against my face and a fly flew near me and I got scared. So I went, and I
It
stuck
wasn't
it
part
into
of
my
the
mouth and
study.
swallowed it. No, and I went, I've just swallowed a fly. And she went, oh, and I said, I'm vegan. And she went, I'm so sorry. I said, it wasn't your fault.
She didn't say, perhaps she'll die.
Perhaps you'll die.
Good Lord. In
You
the
didn't
later
swallow
stages
anything
of
else
the experiment,
afterwards.
she made you swallow a horse and a dog. That was too easy, wasn't it?
The bit I think is interesting, the one of many bits that's interesting in that lovely letter from Should Have Done is if there are now papers being published which are looking at things that could predict ADHD that are not ADHD tests. And in the letter, it talks about, could astigmatism be something that could be used to predict ADHD? And there are now more and more studies trying to look for, because there isn't yet that brain scan, because there isn't yet a blood test, etc. There are more and more studies trying to find if there's any other of the coexisting conditions that 85% of us kind of have that has sufficient predictive power that if you have it in shoulder, they could go, oh, that might be related to ADHD.
Oh,
Can I
that's
be Captain Science Buzzkill for a sec?
Yeah.
So because
What
astigmatism
change?
isn't powerfully genetic, I mean, it has some genetic definitely, but it could be and appears to be environmental or societal or something happening to us as we develop that affects our eyes. And it could be that the challenges that people with ADHD face in terms of accidents and low socioeconomic status could also be contributing to astigmatism. So it might be what we call a confounding variable or a socioeconomic cause of both rather than any formal link. From a screening perspective, who cares? Actually, there's an argument for screening anyone who wants screening. That would be my preference because it's so relatable. There are so many coexisting conditions, and it causes. It is literally, when you look at it, it is literally this ADHD, the mental health disorder that causes the most problematic life events to the highest number of people in the world, and therefore screening for it would solve or at least begin to solve a lot of problems. So, and astigmatism is just one of the things we should look at.
It would. I don't think you dampen that down at all, Alex. At least it shows you've done some reading at some point about astigmatism.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I've got a degree in
question
genetics, James.
two.
As you know, despite the fact that bit we just recently wrote on genetics,
wasn't
you
it plant
purposefully
genetics? Wasn't it plant genetics? That was something ridiculous.
Not my degree. That wasn't my degree. That was, I can't remember. Regular?
No.
It was normal ones.
Yeah, regular genetics. Anyway, you have the certificate up on your wall, don't you? Because you're proud of it. Question 2 is, to the no-feeling vampire, pole dancing Hulk, and peaceful wilderness sociopath,
Hello.
what a year it's been. My life has been academically more successful and overall massively improved due to the podcast and James's little ADHD couples workshop. Yet somehow I feel like my actual weekly therapy sessions have only been useful because I had the psychoeducation from you guys. In episode 142, in the week of ADHD, James brought up the topic of internal family systems, or IFS therapy, and it being really helpful for him. Minute 32, in case you don't remember when or what you said.
Amazing.
I was just thinking that. I don't think that was us.
I've had so many shit sessions of therapy. CBT is being the most provided one, and yet being the one which actually often made my symptoms worse. Also, ADHD group therapists to learn how to set goals and learn how to play was kind of, meh. I've had 1 or 2 sessions with the internal family systems theory, and they were indeed massively helpful. I honestly felt like I've wasted so many years on therapy. Do you think IFS, or internal family systems therapy styles, are particularly effective on people with ADHD? What are the basics ADHDers could benefit from? And do you guys think this technique should always be used for ADHD? I think it might be specifically more effective for ADHD in combination with anything else like anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever. Love to hear your thoughts. And that's from Asta Alana. Now, obviously, I've had IFS and know a bit about it, but do you two want to say anything before me?
I've had it and hated it, and I love CBT. I think we're all different. and it's whatever works for you. CBT
When
really works for me, but IFS, remember, I thought that she was basically telling me that I had multiple personalities, and it really upset
was
me.
Was that the one that told you to put your part of you on the radiator? Or, yeah, I don't think she was a good therapist.
Yeah, but CBT really works for me, but IFS didn't.
You're a tad echoey, Sam.
Oh, am I? It's this fucking microphone. Sorry. You go,
okay.
Alex, and I'll try and sort it out.
Okay, yeah, I know, James, you know loads more about this, but from a neuroscience perspective, when a human has a thought, we tend to rationalize it as a group of all our different emotions and logic and all those coming together to decide on something together. But it really couldn't be further from the truth. It's almost like there's lots of different decision-making parts of the brain all fighting like little dogs in a bag, and one of them wins, and it's usually the emotional one. And that's especially true with ADHD. And we rationalize it afterwards. Oh, I must have wanted to do that because that's the logical thing to do. When in fact, if we're really honest, it's a load of old bollocks, and we rationalize afterwards. Oh, I must have wanted to do that because isn't the case. And I think IFS is using that really important fact of how brains come up with decisions to allow us to understand ourselves a bit better. So, James, hit us with what your thoughts are, which are better than that.
Yeah. So, what I would say is, when I started having therapy, I obviously wasn't in a good place. I'd resisted therapy throughout my adult life. I first had what we thought was depression when I was 20, and I realized that was the start of having bipolar, and was offered therapy and obviously said no, because I genuinely thought it was, I've said this in the past, and in fact I discussed it yesterday with that same coaching client. It's like a magic trick to me, is once I've worked out what they're trying to do, I feel like, you're trying to trick me, I know what you're doing now, and therefore would resist it. But then I met somebody called Jenna. She was my therapist in Barcelona, and we got chatting about ADHD, and we said, let's have a go. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll have a go. I'll give it a bash for once. And I went in completely cynical. Now, IFS is a type of therapy where fundamentally it works on this idea that your mind has kind of multiple roles within it, like members of a family, which is where the name comes from. And those roles of your different parts of your psyche are very specific. So some of them might seem like they make you sad, but they're there for a reason. So, for example, my low self-esteem and self-hatred and this kind of complete acceptance that I'm a shit person was my protector. That was the psychological role. It protected me from anyone else kind of making me feel bad about myself, because if I fundamentally accept all the negative things about myself, you can't say anything that's going to make me feel bad, because I already accept that I'm completely bad. So that role of me thinking that was to protect me from things. Now, it genuinely helped me understand my low self-esteem. At first, I was really, really cynical of talking to the 12-year-old boy inside me. Ding. I know it's a terrible one, but I've got to do it.
Yeah.
And
also ding.
Yes. And I can't, and I thought, and listen, I'll be honest, I thought, you know what, I'll say I'm doing it, but I'm just going to pretend. But as soon as I did, oh my God, like floods of tears, and it's literally, not literally, figuratively, Alex, I could, I suppose, visualize or see that 12-year-old boy that was a bit rejected and didn't have the best of friends and had been through not traumatic experiences, but just felt a bit unloved, I suppose. And how that had then been carried with me, etc. What also helped, I'd say, about IFS is there wasn't any homework. There was no, you've got to do this thing and remember to do that thing. It was just, for me, about working in the session to try and understand which parts of the way in which I think about myself were related to the behaviors and thoughts that I've got now. And it massively helped me accept myself. And I think that's really important, because I'm never going to love myself, but I think accepting myself is sometimes kind of as good as you can get, and that's enough. Does that make sense? In terms of evidence with ADHD, there isn't really any evidence. There is evidence
Not
that
yet.
it works in general, but there isn't any evidence. 'Cause I don't think anybody's looked, or they haven't. I haven't seen any registered trials. So I'm not sure if anyone is looking, but it has certainly worked for me. N equals 1.
Boring.
Oh, what do I have to? Okay. Yeah, sorry. No, I think that's a good point, actually. Accepting yourself is as good as I'm ever going to get to. I'm never going to love myself, and I think that's
That's the
good enough.
spirit.
I feed myself. I give myself drinks. That's showing myself self-love, and
Yeah.
that's as good as I'm going to get. Anyway, question 3 is: hello, guys.
Hello.
I'm from Germany, near to Nuremberg, Alex.
Wow.
I started to get my ADHD diagnosis in August and was lucky that everything went quite quickly. Today, I had what was supposed to be my final talk with the psychiatrist, and she told me that actually she thinks I'm more likely to have agitated depression instead of ADHD. I re-listened to your episode on ADHD and mood disorders, but you never mentioned that kind of disorder. Do you
No.
know more about it and could answer
Yes.
me if I should seek maybe another opinion or if this is a good possibility because of very matching symptoms? I love your podcast and your banter. Keep on going. Bye, y'all. Julia. You can use my name. Oh, good, because I did.
Well, let's use it properly then. It'll be Julia.
Oh, sorry, Julia. Mm.
Such a mean thing to say. There's no reason you would know that.
Mm.
Hi, Julia. Wow. Who wants to take that? I mean, I'm cross with their psychiatrist.
Yeah. So it fascinates me because obviously, we're not psychiatrists or psychologists, but we do know a lot from our lived experience and research into the field. And I thought that's a really interesting term, agitated depression. So
Not the
obviously,
90s.
no, exactly. I've done some research, and what's really odd is it's not even called that anymore.
No.
So there isn't an agitated depression diagnosis. It's called depression with mixed features. Occasionally, it's called mixed mania or just mixed features. And it is in the DSM-5, but there's been research done since looking at it to basically say the evidence to include it as a diagnosis was really poor.
Yeah.
And as to be a separate mood disorder, I think it's likely it probably won't be included in the next version of the DSM. I mean, one of the papers that reviewed this was even called DSM-5 criteria for depression with mixed features, a farewell to mixed depression, because they felt that it wasn't a thing. And I think, I mean, I don't know kind of how old or how up to date your doctor's
I think we can
kind of
make a
knowledge
solid
is. Yeah. But it's possible. But what's really sadly happened to you, Julia, sits in that little kind of, well, not even niche, but that little area where mood disorders like bipolar and cyclothymia and ADHD either get confused or misdiagnosed because there's, either a crossover in symptoms, or in this case, probably a lack of knowledge, because this is an out of date term for a condition which is probably soon not going to be considered a condition. So that would be my answer. Second opinion.
Right. It almost fucking doesn't matter. It's very unlikely that someone only has ADHD. Highly unlikely. And therefore, you can have a generalized anxiety disorder, which would include the symptoms of what they used to call agitated depression, either with ADHD or because of ADHD, or both.
Yeah.
And frankly, it doesn't matter. There's only one question here: is what do you and your psychiatrist think is the best way to deal with the most impairing symptoms of all of it, and deal with that? And if that's, for example, in my case, my anxiety was pretty much 80-90% due to trying to live as an ADHD twat. It's not been able to live with my own ADHD, which was awful. And then when I got treated and helped with ADHD, a lot of that went away. But for people who have an anxiety disorder independently of ADHD, and loads do, that's not going to help. So it really is a case of having a look at that and thinking, what are the main things that need dealing with acutely, and what are the likely causes of them? If it's the ADHD, treat that. If it's the anxiety, go for that. And that's a personal decision that we can't advise on, but that is psychiatry 101, quite fucking frankly. It's worrying. Annoying. If you get in touch, like, because I'm near Nuremberg as well, we can chat about the system there if you want, Julia. Just drop me an email, alexconnorconsulting@gmail.com, and we can have a quick Zoom or something and chat, because that's pissed me off.
That's a fair offer, Alex. Not that anyone would want to spend time with you.
No.
The last bits in blue.
I was taking a pause.
That wasn't a pause.
I thought
Listen. There's a 2-second pause to annoy Sam, and that was a 3-second pause, which has gone over. That was
absolutely not paying any attention to me.
And what's annoyed me more is that neither of you have asked me for my view on that.
Sorry,
Sam.
Sam, agitated depression, thoughts, go.
But I've said this before, but when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was still being treated for anxiety and depression at the same time. And I managed to come off my anxiety meds once I got settled on my ADHD meds. So yeah, you absolutely can have both at the same time. And a lot of my anxiety was caused by trying to deal with ADHD symptoms. I still have anxiety now, but nowhere near as much as I did before. So yeah, that's just
I think such a good example, sorry, James, of anxiety due to ADHD and anxiety separately. And we always try and think it's one thing, and like then we're angry at ourselves for not being cured all the time, which is literally impossible.
Yeah.
Just before we go to the break, which isn't going to be a break, it's really, really important for that specific phrase, that agitated depression. It's not just anxiety. Is in its theoretically very poor diagnostic criteria. It's hypomania, it's anger, it's excess energy. This is why it really looks like a form of bipolar disorder, because you have this
schizophrenia, right?
Yeah, this constant low mood with just occasional bouts of what could be called hypomania. So this is why I think it's important that phrase, which is no longer used psychiatrically, being used by a psychiatrist, is really worrying, I think.
It is. I guess we weren't there and we can't, but it is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
Right, we're taking a break that isn't a break. In part 3, thoughts on this week's theme, whatever that was, and this week's podcast or something. And break, but not.
Yeah.
Sam, do you want to flash your arse again?
I need to. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what
you realize when obviously one of the reasons I was doing this was I've got to do less editing now, but now I've actually got to pixelate your arse for YouTube.
Ding.
Do you want me to do it?
Ding.
I can do it.
No.
I need to speak to you both about my idea about. Probably this isn't a good.
Definitely not. No, that would be a terrible time.
Yeah, and did you have to do something? Because obviously you started off with saying I've got to. No, as I thought you had to go for a drink or something, because you said, "Oh,
I got a drink." That's okay. when I showed my arse, I went for a drink.
Yeah. We assume you were going to show it again though, because anyway.
Sam, if you could leave a millisecond gap between counting and saying "welcome back," that'd be amazing.
Coming back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to part 3 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we are talking about I think it was ADHD and the workplace
discrimination.
Workplace.
Yes.
James, what made you choose that theme for a podcast?
Honestly,
I don't know if you should be honest.
No.
I definitely don't be honest.
Honestly, not my own experience. Honestly, the reason was it was. Did
you actually look at the spreadsheet of suggested topics?
You can get. I fucking fucked you, fucker. I always look at that spreadsheet when I'm looking at future episodes. And obviously try and then work out based on how many people have asked for stuff. And this was one that somebody had asked for. And because also a couple of people that I coach have or had clearly been going through or been through discrimination, I thought it's something that was really important, because it's such a common thing, sometimes not deliberately. Sometimes it's just the kind of the naturally ableist processes that a lot of employers have in place, and sometimes it's discrimination with a little d. Everything from, as I said on Monday, everything from being phoned up without any kind of pre-warning and told to remember some things that you've got to do, rather than being given something in writing that you can remember, when that person knows you've got ADHD, or not being given clear deadlines or priorities when you're working on stuff. All of that stuff happens in pretty much every kind of employer in every sector.
What?
Wasn't priorities
deadline.
in the last episode?
No,
that's next week. This is
Right.
workplace discrimination.
Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad. We'd edit that in post, no problem.
Well, that's the thing. We won't, will we?
No.
So that was the reason why. Sam?
I have no editorial rights in this podcast. I did not choose the theme or contribute to it in any way. Alex?
That's not what you said. It's nearly
Isn't
there. I don't
Close
think
enough.
so. I've forgotten.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Like me, choosing that is easy and common. It's one of the big problems we have, isn't it? Is that we are not employed at a level concomitant with our educational achievements or intellectual abilities. That's just on average. That's how it is. And on average is important, because some people like James have been massively overemployed, but on average we're underemployed. And so we get asked about that a lot. What do I do? I think they're being ableist. I think they're treating me badly, but with self-esteem issues, with RSD fears, you can't say anything. What do you do about that? And that's what we face. That the problem of the law protecting us, and the reality meaning you're fucked if you whistleblow, is a huge discriminatory problem in, I would argue, pretty much every country in the world. But it's worse in the UK and in America than, well, in Germany, for example. You're much more protected as an employee. So that's.
Was there any thought from the? Oh.
I mean, what?
I mean, I left a gap.
You did.
You didn't. That was
No. I know I didn't, James. That was.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you'd finished. Sorry, carry on.
No, I have now. Yeah, you've.
Oh, right. So I
absolutely
was
shafted
right
me.
too. Yeah. Was there any thought or tip from the theme that you forgot to say, Alex?
No, don't work with animals, children, or Mrs ADHD. That's my tip. What about you? Oh yeah.
Which one?
Who?
Samantha.
I can't think of anything. Although this morning I did remember about the time I was fired from a job before I even started it, but that wasn't workplace discrimination.
What was it? Wait, what was it?
I told them
The truth.
would improve. Yeah, I told them the truth very bluntly, as I am very blunt, and said, this is what you can do to improve things, because I don't think you're doing this right. And they went, we don't want you to work for us. We think we're doing everything great.
Yeah, to be fair, they had actually said to you, we want you to come in with a fresh pair of eyes and tell us,
Yeah,
and tell us,
I don't think they
and
were
when you did
expecting
that,
it before I even started, yeah. And then I lost my job just before Christmas, which was fun.
He's lovely. I have got one thing I wanted to say, which is interviews for jobs. They are scientifically proven to be massive load of old bollocks bullshit that propagates the same heteronormative system that was there before. And yet we all still continue to use them. A lot of employers think they're valuable. They think they can read people. They can't. It's measurable. And we should absolutely only use interviews to see if the employee, the potential employee, is going to be happy there. So it should be after an offer, the interview, not before. That's my.
I had a really good interview. The place that I'm working at now, I mean, went for a few jobs before I got the one that I got, because they just wouldn't employ me. But one of the jobs I went for, which I didn't get, they had somebody from the office I was going to be working in speak to me. And we had a chat, and I could ask her honest questions and she could ask me honest questions to see if I'd be a good fit for the team. And I could see actually if I could get on with people that I'd be working with in the team. And she could say, got on with me.
I've always done that. Especially if I've had a team like under my control, I guess. I've made them go and have a coffee without me so they can say, "What a twat." What about you, James?
Yeah, actually, there is something which is, I suppose, related. We're starting to see, and we will. Sorry, clag in my throat.
Clag. Did you
Clag,
say?
yeah.
That's
Bit of
a
clag.
word, is it?
Yes, it is.
Flag.
We're starting to see an increase in people working in the ADHD sector, obviously in terms of coaches and also physical trainers. Hi, James. And therapists who are now training and specialists. And I think it's going to be obviously a growth sector in the future as more and more people get diagnosed, as more and more people realize that they need support. And there are two things. There are two, if you like, job roles, which I think are very much needed. One is careers advice for people with ADHD, because loads and loads of people who then, when they get diagnosed, realize they are in a job that is not compatible with ADHD, then start to think, but what else can I do? Now, I can
James,
remember...
and they've lied to get it as well because they thought they'd be a different person, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's isn't it weird that, I mean, I can remember, because I'm old, having a meeting with the careers advisor at school. I think it was in like the final year of school. I can't remember what they told me I should. I can't remember what they told me I should be, but I didn't end up being that anyway. But isn't it? This was obviously back in 1758.
Yeah.
And was conducted
you
in
should
Latin.
Be a milliner.
But it's odd to me, and listen, they clearly are out there, but there aren't more kind of prominent careers advice services other than those that are terribly banal and website based. Kind of go on to read.co.uk, type in what jobs would be good for me, etc. But the other one is that there are absolutely are going to be more and more people over the next 5 to 10 years and possibly beyond that, until most employers sort their shit out. Going to be more and more people that are discriminated against and need help and support. We all know people personally that have been through or are going through this at the minute.
Or we are.
And the problem, and the problem is that the process is needed for every step of trying to, if you are being discriminated against, make sure that you get the outcome that you want, whatever that is. Either you stay in employment and they change their processes, you leave employment and you are compensated for the distress, etc. All those processes are ableist, and I think there is a potential role for people out there to specifically advise people with ADHD who are in this position, and I think that is a service that's needed.
It really is. It's such a good one, Jim. And that "what do you want" is a really common thing that my clients say, is that they don't actually know. They think it's some kind of justice. I just want them to admit it. But in reality, they don't. They just want people to fuck off and leave them alone. But they think they want some kind of justice. It's again that our brains make a series of decisions. And if you are, 25 to 40, and we've got a developmental delay, our brains aren't fully right till we're really quite old in some cases. So if you're feeling like, well, I've made all these decisions and I don't feel those things anymore, that's all right. That's normal change. We are different I reckon I was in my 30s before I was fully baked. And that's really late for a human. I love that, James. And despite all of your weaknesses and faults that I despise, that one thing you've said was of some small value.
The disability law service actually can help people with ADHD.
Can they? What's DLS? What's that?
The Disability Law Service. They are lawyers that offer their time for free to help people with disabilities, including ADHD, and they will help you with employment.
I find it really weird when you have all this knowledge that you've told me about now, bubbling away in there. Well, that was our Uncut episode 150 of the ADHD Adults. It was the first ever Friday, 3 times a week, Uncut extra episode of the ADHD Adults that we do bi-monthly or something after Monday's episode on ADHD and bullying in the worst place. If you like this nonsense and want to get involved, why don't you contact me, Sam, or Brian Brains over there on our podcast website, www.theadhdadults.uk.
Flawless.
Goodbyes.
Bye.
Is it goodbyes? At what point now do we stop recording?
I don't know. Shall I tell you about my idea?
No, let's stop recording
Oh,
now.
should we? Really?
Yeah, because if it doesn't, you might sound like a twat. I don't know.
Yeah,
if it
and you'll
doesn't
say
come to
something.
Mind
fruition.
sounding like a twat.
Or it
if
might,
you
or it
left
might be,
me.
or it
That's
might be
kind of my shtick.
amazing, or it might be amazing, and then we can't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You
yeah,
want to
can't-
take credit for it?
No, I
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
take credit for it.
I do.
Oh yeah. I'm known for wanting to take credit. for things
It's like
in
how I
this
came up with this
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah, entirely. Right. I think I'm going to click
So
stop.
my idea was
Trigger warning, klaxon, 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 klaxon.